All right, we're back. We're back. If I was Satan, I would try to block this information as he tries to do. That's right. We're going to blame him for this one, but we're going to be relentless in getting this information out to you. Do me a favor right now. Share the link again. If you're over on YouTube, share the link and tell everyone we're back. If you're over on Facebook, you're a part of our Facebook audience, please share again. Post this on your page. It'll be a quick way of making everyone know that we are back. So let me pick up where we were. The lesser of two evils principle, or the lesser evil principle, and lesser evilism is the principle that when faced with selecting from two immoral options, the one which is least immoral should be chosen. In the 2016 United States presidential election, both major candidates of the major parties, Hillary Clinton, Democrat, Donald Trump, Republican, had a disapproval rating close to 60% by August 31st, about 4 months. It was really August 31st, so September, October, 2 months and a few days before the general election. Green Party candidate Jill Stein invoked this idea in her campaign, in her slogan, "Don't vote for the lesser evil." I like this. "Fight for the greater good." So instead of calling them the lesser evils, let's just say we're looking for the greater good politically, as political observants and the political voters, the voting community of the United States. We're looking for the greater good between these two candidates, which means we must be aware of the facts, regardless of the spin and the spin masters. According to Pastor Terry Anderson of the Lily Grove Missionary Baptist Church, and he's in Houston, Texas, he makes this statement. I love it. He says, saying to the black in America to move on and forget slavery and its long-term effects is like saying to the Jews, forget the Holocaust. Now, I was in Israel, and one of the two museums I visited, both were Holocaust museums. One was like a serious, I think maybe $8 million project, and the other one might have been about a $20 million project, but it was major, something like that. And on the outside of the museum, I mean, it's Gothic, and it says, I think the statement is, "We will never forget. We will never forget." And if the Jews, Hitler killed almost 8 million Jewish people, and we've got 10 to 12 million Africans imported into this country and banished, so to speak, whether by way of life or by way of ability or by way of giftings, which never really were brought to surface, that were under this tyrannical effects of slavery. And if the Jews at 8 million can say, "We'll never forget," what should we be saying? He says, he makes the argument, it's like saying to the Jew to forget the Holocaust. It's like saying to the Bosnians to forget ethnic cleansing. It's like saying to the Japanese to forget Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like saying to the Native American to forget the Trail of Tears and the massacre of Wounded Knee. And he goes on to say, and I love this, all lives matter, to the statement, all lives matter, which people make to try to bring some sort of equity to the heightened awareness of the treatment of black and browns in this country by law enforcement community. And I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but by some members of the law enforcement community. He says, all bones in the body matter, but the broken one receives the attention. All homes matter, but the one on fire and requiring experiencing medical emergencies receives the attention. So let's get back to, I like it. Thank you, Pastor Terry Anderson. Columbus Day in 1492. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He had 3 ships and left from Spain. He sailed through sunshine, wind, and rain. He sailed by night. He sailed by day. He used the stars to find his way. A compass also helped him know how to find the way to go. 90 sailors were on board. Some men worked while others snored. Then the workers went to sleep, and others watched the ocean deep. Day after day, they looked for land. They dreamed of trees and rocks and sand. October 12th, their dream came true. You never saw a happier crew. Indians, Indians, Columbus cried. His heart was filled with joyful pride. But India, the land, was not. It was the Bahamas, and it was hot. The Arakawa natives were very nice. They gave the sailors food and spice. Columbus sailed on to find some gold to bring back home, as he'd been told. He made the trip again and again, trading gold to bring to Spain. The first American? No, not quite, but Columbus was brave and he was bright. A classic example of whitewashed history. Spend intentionally to make certain ethnic groups in their possession of these Americas to look better than they were. Now, I don't want to take this program into Columbus's navigational skills or the lack thereof. Maybe I'll do another show on that another day. I don't want to waste any more time. So we celebrate in this on this day, Native Americans. We celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, the indigenous to this country. Now, there are some proposed amendments on the November 3rd ballot explained. Now, remember, if you're going to vote early in Jefferson County or Shelby County or any of the Alabama counties, and I'm presuming it's going to probably be that way wherever this podcast is heard, you can just simply check or notify by way of the ballots that you are doing absentee ballot or you're doing a mail-in ballot because of the global crisis, and you're allowed to do so. And so this particular Jefferson County has, along with the presidential, vice presidential election and several other categories in this state, the senatorial race will be there. It's a general election, so this is a big one. You also have amendments. Some apply to Jefferson County residents. Some apply to the other residents of other, in my way of thinking, unaffected counties by those who live in Jefferson or Shelby County, whatever the case may be. Now, the point I'm making here is this: because of I think it's the 1901 Alabama Constitution, it is so antiquated, it's so arcane that it really needs modification. And so because of that particular constitution under which the Alabamas function politically, all counties have to be notified about the particular goings on of other counties, even though you don't reside there. Now, my mindset is you only vote in the county, vote about the issues concerning the issues that affect the county in which one would reside. So Amendment 1, what would Amendment 1 change? Amendment 1 would amend the Alabama Constitution to state that only a citizen of the United States, rather than every citizen of the United States who is 18 years old or older, has the right to vote in Alabama. So that is a change of wording from the word only to the word only, from the word every. And that's just the modification in that respect. Now, this gets on the ballot because Senator Dale Marsh, Republican. Now, I put this here, and I've had to ask for the research to be done. And I'm mentioning this because in my mind, this is just GM2 George Matthews II. Now, this is just in my mind. I said that twice. Okay, I'm going to say it once again, just in my mind. Because most Republicans are in lockstep, including my white, and it doesn't look like I'm going to get to it tonight, evangelical brothers and sisters. Part of this program is going to address why are white evangelicals sacrificing the truth for their love for President Donald John Trump. And because of this sacrifice and because of their dancing around truth and true issues, I'm suspect of everything the Republicans say, all of the amendments they put forth, if it's sponsored by them, because they don't mind telling lies. How do you know when they're lying? If their lips are moving, chances are good they are lying. They're lying. And so this particular amendment is put forth by Senator Dale Marsh. He has been very harmful, in my view, to Alabama politics as it relates to black and brown people. So I would vote no if you ask me. Amendment 2. What would Amendment 2 do? Well, Amendment 2 would remove the authority of the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court to hire the administrative director of courts and give that authority to the Alabama Supreme Court as a whole. The administrative director of the court is the executive that oversees the state court system. The bill would also remove the ability of the legislature to impeach judges, leaving judicial removal in the hands of the Judicial Inquiry Commission, JIC, and the Court of Judiciary, which rules on judicial complaints. The measure would also change punishment for judges, so forth and so on. It would make changes to the state's judicial system concerning court systems and procedures. Some changes made by the amendment include increasing the membership of the Judicial Inquiry Commission from 9 to 11 members, removing the lieutenant governor's authority to make appointments to the Alabama Court of the Judiciary, allowing the procedure of filing judicial vacancies to be changed by local constitution amendment, and requiring state Supreme Court recommendations in order for the state legislature to change the number of circuit or district court judges or judicial district boundaries. Now, again, I'm a little suspect of these changes because I don't know what necessitated the change. And because we're under, in this country, Republican power brokering, I'm suspect. I'm hesitant. No. Amendment 3. What Amendment 3 would change? Amendment 3 will provide that a district court or circuit court judge appointed to fill a vacancy serves until a replacement is elected to the next general election following at least 2 years from his or her appointment. Currently, a judge appointed to fill a vacancy serves an initial term of 1 year in office or the remainder of the original term of the judge elected to the office, which is vacant, whichever is longer. And so we're increasing judges and their term, which we don't want to do, in my view, because judges impact, a judge's impact is long term. This is why the Republicans have stacked the Supreme Court. And I'm going to get into it. I don't know if I have the time tonight, but they've stacked. And I watched the debate when Vice President Pence asked vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris whether, if elected, they would stack the court system, the judicial system. And she had to play cool because, she will be billed as an angry black one, an angry black woman too. So she has to placate. I don't know the reason for that. Well, I do know, and I don't want to get into it now. But she knows how things have gone in this country concerning black and brown people, then more specifically, the double minority, black and then a female, and then vying for the first black person to be a vice presidential candidate of seriousness. And so she has to meander her way around and she's a debater. She's a prosecutor. In her prosecutorial experience, she could have lit him up, but it wouldn't have been good for the optics. So she did well, in my view. She did well in managing herself. And the vice president asked, if we change power and the Democrats are suddenly in charge, are we going to stack the judicial system? And these people are so professional at spinning around what it is they have done for the last 4 years. And they try to placate that or place the blame for that on the next party, so to speak. We call it in psychology deflection. When you are guilty of a thing, you deflect the attention from yourself by placing the same thing on someone else. And they're spin masters. They've stacked the court system. Man, I've got some statistics here. I hope I can get to it. But anyway, Amendment 4, that's no. Amendment 4, what would Amendment 4 do? This measure would authorize the state legislature during the 2022 regular state legislative session to recompile the Alabama Constitution and provide for its ratification. According to the text of the proposed amendment, authorized changes to the Constitution would include arranging it in proper articles, parts, and sections, removing all racist language. See, that's the hook right there. When people will see that, if they haven't studied this out, they'll go for it. Removing all racist language, deleting duplicative and repealed provisions. These words I don't know why my screen did not. I do a particular font size that's comfortable for me, and I don't know why it wouldn't pick it up. I've done it 3 times. It didn't pick it up. But anyway, deleting duplicative and repealed provision. Maybe that's duplicative. Anyway, saying it over and over again in the wording, in the verbiage of the Constitution as it stands now. Consolidating provisions regarding economic development and arranging all local amendments by county of application. So now I'm suspicious of that for the same reasons. Once you start playing with the Constitution and not ratifying it wholesale, but you're piecemealing it out, I think there's something sneaky. Something in what is the old adage? There's a dead cat on the line somewhere. Again, be mindful of the fact that the state, the country is under Republican influence, and I don't trust them. And so, Amendment 5, and these are all parts of your voting process, the ballot for the upcoming general election. It's designed specifically to provide that individuals may use deadly force in self-defense or in defense of another person on church premises. The amendment applies only to churches in Franklin County. So that's a no or no vote on that. The next one, Amendment 6, is Lauderdale County. If you don't live in Lauderdale County, stay out of their business. So those are the 6 amendments. So now there's this piece. I don't have the opportunity to get into it tonight. I'm looking at my time. So I was going to get at this under Lincoln, and that's why people that were black and brown were Republicans those many years ago, because out of a sense of loyalty to Lincoln, who signed the Emancipation Proclamation. But the party of Lincoln, as they call it, the Republican Party, is not the Republican Party today. There is a vast difference between President Abraham Lincoln and President Donald John Trump. And Stevie Wonder told me he could see that, and Ray Charles told me before he died, don't vote for Trump because I can see the difference between President Abraham Lincoln and President Donald John Trump. If you can't see that, I don't know if this podcast can help you, really. But the point I want to make as we're closing tonight is simply this. Trump, from the United States Law Week, June 24th, 2020, by Madison Alder and Jasmine Yehan. The entitlement of the article, Trump nears post-Nixon first, no black circuit court judges. Trump has appointed more federal appeals court judges to date than any recent president at the same point in their presidency. The overall number of federal judges Trump has appointed to date, 194, is similar to the number appointed by George W. Bush at the same juncture in his presidency, which the number was 197. Trump, however, stands out for his unusually large number of appeals court judges. Now, here's where the appeals court judges come into play. The powerful regional jurists who have the final word on most appeals that do not end up in the Supreme Court, and who frequently end up becoming Supreme Court justices themselves. So the appeal process is like any kind of crime that goes through the judicial system. Any kind of felonious crime that goes through the judicial system. And once a verdict has been rendered and it is appealed, then it goes to the appeals court justices or judges. So these justices or judges control who goes to prison and for what crimes. If these guys are in lockstep with the Republican agenda, demonization and annihilation attempts of black and brown people. And this is why this president has appointed read my lips, out of 194 appointments to the appeals court, probably most important part of the judicial system, because where would you be without an appeal if you have an unfavorable verdict rendered? The next process is to appeal, and probably most attorneys appeal before leaving the courtroom or very shortly thereafter, because that's the way the political process runs. But if they're engaged and in lockstep, long lasting. So again, many of these people, 8 of the 9 current Supreme Court justices, both of whom served as appeals court justices. So they know what they're doing. So far, here's some more numbers. So far, people, we're getting down to the 11th proverbial hour, the proverbial 11th hour. In Trump's administration, just look around the table. The only spot person of color, Negro, Negroid, colored person, black person, African, waiting to be an American in America, around the table in his cabinet is in the person of Ben Carson. I'm going to let that sink in for the people in the back right of the room. Ben Carson, who was over the housing administration. The man is one of the most skilled surgeons, neurological surgeons. Why is he not in the capacity that affects his medical experience? The Surgeon General? Maybe? No. Reduce him, slap him in the face, and make him director of housing. No other blacks. No other minorities. That's it. He's attempting to do the same in the judicial system and the effects thereof. Take this into consideration. Now, here are the numbers. More than 8 in 10, that's 85% of the federal judges appointed by Trump through July 7th are white. 15% of a different race or ethnicity. The last president to appoint such a high share of white jurists or judges through July 7th of his 4th year in office was George H.W. Bush, 91%. So these guys have an agenda. And we're left out of the being invitees to the party, and I mean that both literally and figuratively. Next week, I'm going to get into this. Why evangelicals? Now, an evangelical, I use that term. I'll close by defining this, because this term involves many of my heroes of my life after I've come into the kingdom of God, and my understanding of faith and my understanding and embracement of Jesus Christ as Lord. This community, the evangelical community, are Protestants. And first of all, Protestants are different from Catholics. Catholics of God in the earth, the Holy Blessed Father. No offense to the Catholics, and I hope I did justice to that. But a Protestant is a person who is of faith in Jesus Christ, who differs from a Catholic. So that's the Protestant faith. And it involves all the denominations of Reformations: Baptists, Methodists, Pentecostals, Episcopals, so forth. Every other denomination that embraces Jesus Christ as Lord, other than the Catholics, because the Catholics have a little different twist as far as the tiers of their faith, TIERS. And so when you talk about the evangelicals, they are the white portion of those persons in their teaching and their persuasion of the good news of Jesus Christ. And I have guys that I have listened to for years, and I'm amazed at their blindness. And I'm going to technical difficulties, but I pray you've rejoined us, and this has been a blessing to you, and this has been informative. But the point I make is I received a letter from a colleague, I'll say that, a colleague a few years older than myself, been in ministry a while, but and a person of color. And it was non-directional, but the inferences were pretty clear where they're going. And because of the caliber of people they've invited to their church to impact black and brown people, I know where they are. So I'm going to look next week, if so much doesn't happen that I have to change. I'm going to look next week at why evangelicals, who are supposed to be armor bearers of the truth, they're supposed to be, what is the theological term? Apologists. Those are not people who apologize for Jesus Christ and his work, but an apologist is someone who is a defender of the truth. They defend the faith at all odds. Why these persons are so in lockstep with this president, and it's over one issue, and I'll tell you now, it's the issue of abortion. But remember, it's the issue of abortion. They say they're pro-life. They're pro-life as far as their statements are concerned, but they're not pro the living of any and all colors. And it's just that simple. But if that's one issue, this president has done so many other things that are high caliber, out of range, out of thought, oh my gosh. And I'm trying to, I search diligently for my adjectives because I'm under a compulsion from God to respect the office. But if I didn't know what I knew, this would be a totally different podcast. But I want to do it as intellectually and civilly as I possibly can and bring you all the facts. And so just remember this, and I'll close tonight. Remember to vote, vote, vote. Vote, vote, vote. Business philosopher, we must not make this mistake. He must be right. He's so sincere. It is possible to be sincerely wrong. We can only judge truth by truth and sincerity by Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7. A time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. We cannot, and I re-emphasize, we cannot be silent. We cannot be silent in the polls. Silence is golden, quote, end quote, only until one's family and friends are negatively affected by wrong doing and wrong actions, or being complicit. Silence is great, quote, end quote, until someone's voice is necessary to save your life or corroborate your innocence. Silence is compromise. Silence is complicity with erroneous thinking. Silence is agreement with sanitized history. Silence is co-signing with control, racist, bigoted, and supremacy mentalities. Liberty and justice end in silence. Don't forget to join us next week, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, for the silence of our friends. And lest we forget, we have Saturday voting in Jefferson County. If you're a resident of Jefferson County, Alabama, Saturday Life, our ministry, is hiring teachers, pre-K teachers. You may contact us via the website, and the information is there available. And there's also a part-time clerical person who is being sought out. And at the Calvary Resurrection Christian Church, the information is available. You can contact either website, and we can get you through to the right person. A third grade certified teacher is being sought. So we're trying to use all of our venues to make certain we're making this available information possible to be connected to the right persons. Until next week, at this very same time, just remember, we cannot ever be silent again. Blessings and peace.